A phone case costs $9. A charging cable costs $6. A small kitchen tool costs less than a cup of coffee. And somehow, that object can leave a factory in China, cross an ocean, pass through customs, enter warehouses, move through sorting centers, ride inside trucks and delivery vans, and still arrive at someone's front door thousands of miles away. Sometimes the screen even says free shipping. But that package is not traveling for free. Before it ever reaches a mailbox, it has already entered one of the most complex logistics systems ever built. A system of factories, online platforms, local couriers, export warehouses, cargo flights, shipping containers, customs databases, postal networks, barcode scanners, delivery routes, and millions of other packages moving beside it. So the real question is not simply, how can a $9 package cross the world? The real question is, how did the cost of that journey become so small, so hidden, and so invisible that it almost feels like it disappeared? Today, we're going to trace the entire journey of one cheap package, from the moment it leaves a factory to the moment it appears at a doorstep. And by the end, free shipping may not look free anymore. The journey starts long before the package is packed. Somewhere inside a manufacturing city, a small item is produced in bulk. It might be a phone case, a plastic gadget, a small LED light, a cable, a sticker pack, or a simple household tool. The object may cost only a few dollars to make, not because the factory is magical, but because the factory is not making one item. It is making thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, sometimes far more. The raw material is bought in bulk. The mold is used again and again. The machines keep running. Workers do not stop after making one object. They make a continuous stream of them. This is the first secret behind the cheap package. Scale. A single item is expensive. A million similar items become a flow. And modern logistics is built around flows. When the seller lists the product online, the buyer sees something simple: a photo, a price, a delivery estimate, and a button that says buy now. But behind that button, a chain of decisions begins. The seller has to decide whether to ship the item directly from China, move it first into a Chinese warehouse, send it through a platform logistics program, or store it in an overseas warehouse closer to the customer. To the buyer, the order looks like shopping. To the system, it is already data. An order number is created. A shipping label is generated. A tracking code is assigned. The destination is checked. The customs information is prepared. The package has not moved yet, but its route has already started to exist inside software. Then the object becomes physical. It is picked from a shelf, wrapped, sealed inside a small plastic mailer or cardboard box, and given a barcode. That barcode is more important than the package itself. Without it, the item is just a tiny object inside a sea of tiny objects. With it, the system knows where it came from, where it needs to go, and which route it should follow. Every time the package moves, that code can be scanned again. At the seller's facility, at the pickup station, at the regional sorting center, at the export warehouse, at the airport, at customs, at the destination sorting hub, and finally, somewhere close to the customer's home. This is why the cheap package is not only moving through roads, planes, and warehouses. It is also moving through information systems. The physical package and the digital package have to stay together. If the object moves, but the data does not, the system loses control. If the data moves, but the object is delayed, the buyer sees confusing tracking updates. The package only survives this journey because its physical movement and its digital identity are constantly connected. From the seller, the package is collected by a local logistics company, but it is not driven straight to an airport. That would be far too expensive. Instead, it joins other packages. First hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands. Small vans collect parcels from sellers and bring them to local stations. Local stations send them to larger sorting centers. Sorting centers group them by destination country, delivery method, weight, size, and speed. The package is not traveling alone. It is being bundled. This is the second secret behind cheap global shipping: consolidation. A $9 package cannot afford a private journey across the planet. It survives by sharing space. The cost of a truck is spread across thousands of parcels. The cost of a warehouse is spread across millions of scans. The cost of a cargo flight is spread across tons of goods. One package is weak. A mountain of packages becomes powerful. Inside the sorting center, the flow is separated. Packages going to the United States move into one lane, Europe into another, Australia, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, Latin America, all into different routes. Some packages contain batteries and need special handling. Some are too large. Some have incomplete addresses. Some are delayed because the declared information is wrong. But the small, light, ordinary package moves quickly because it is exactly the kind of object the system was designed to handle. Eventually, the package reaches an export warehouse. This is one of the most important places in the journey, because this is where online shopping begins to look less like shopping and more like international trade. Every package needs information. What is inside? How much is it worth? Where was it made? Who is sending it? Who is receiving it? Which country is it entering? Which rules apply to it? For years, many low-value packages moved through customs systems with lighter treatment than normal commercial cargo. That was one reason cross-border e-commerce became so cheap and so fast. But this part of the story is changing. As billions of low-value parcels began entering countries every year, governments started looking more closely at the system. They began asking whether the values were accurate, whether the goods were safe, whether duties should be collected, and whether millions of small parcels were reshaping trade in ways old customs rules were never designed to handle. So the $9 package is not just a logistics story. It is also a customs story, a tax story, and a political story. A cheap object in a plastic mailer may look harmless, but when millions of them arrive every day, they become large enough to force governments to rewrite the rules. Once the export paperwork is ready, the package moves again. Sometimes it travels by air, sometimes by sea, sometimes through a combination of trucks, planes, ships, warehouses, and domestic postal networks. Air is faster. Sea is cheaper. Economy shipping is usually not designed around speed. It is designed around survival. Can this tiny item cross the world without the shipping cost destroying the entire price? That is why cheap international shipping can take weeks. The package may wait until enough other packages are going in the same direction. It may sit inside a warehouse. It may be grouped into a sack, a pallet, a container, or an air cargo shipment. This waiting is not always a failure. Sometimes waiting is the business model. Empty space is expensive. Full space is efficient. If a cargo plane is already flying across the Pacific and has space available, that space can carry packages. If a container ship is already crossing the ocean, more small goods can be packed into the flow. The package is not paying for the whole trip. It is renting a tiny fraction of a much larger machine. That machine is global trade. When the package lands in the destination country, the journey is still far from over. Crossing the ocean is only one part of the problem. Before the package can move toward home, it has to pass import processing. Customs systems check the electronic data. Some packages move quickly. Some are inspected. Some are delayed. Some are rejected. This is where the old idea of cheap direct shipping meets the new reality. For years, low-value e-commerce parcels benefited from simplified customs treatment in many countries. But as the volume exploded, governments started changing the rules. That means duties, fees, stricter declarations, and more processing can become part of the cost. And when those costs rise, someone has to absorb them. The seller can absorb them. The platform can absorb them. The logistics company can absorb them. Or the customer can pay through higher prices, longer delivery times, or new fees at checkout. This is why the age of the unbelievably cheap $9 package is not as stable as it once looked. The package can still move across the world, but the hidden math is becoming harder. After customs, the package enters the domestic delivery network. This is the last mile. And the last mile is often the most difficult part of the journey. Moving thousands of packages across an ocean together can be surprisingly efficient. Delivering one small parcel to one specific apartment, on one specific street, in one specific city is much harder. A truck has to stop. A driver has to scan. The package has to be placed at a door, inside a mailbox, in a locker, or at a pickup point. That final step involves roads, fuel, labor, insurance, buildings, routing software, and time. This is why local delivery can sometimes feel more expensive than the long international leg. It sounds strange, but the ocean is shared. The doorstep is personal, and personal delivery is expensive. So when a cheap package finally arrives, what you are seeing is not one simple delivery. You are seeing the final step of a massive cost-sharing system. The package became affordable because it traveled with millions of others for most of the journey. Only at the very end did it become personal. So how did cheap cross-border sellers make the math work? They made products small and light. They shipped slowly when speed was not required. They consolidated thousands of orders into the same logistics flow. They used platform-negotiated shipping rates. They relied on automated sorting. They moved through postal and commercial networks that were already carrying mail and parcels. They used overseas warehouses when faster delivery was needed. And they priced products in a way that made shipping appear free, even when it was already built into the total cost. This is the real trick behind free shipping. The cost did not vanish. It was divided, compressed, delayed, hidden, shifted, or prepaid somewhere else in the chain. Sometimes the seller accepts a tiny margin because the real goal is volume. Sometimes the platform subsidizes part of the logistics to keep customers buying. Sometimes the shipping cost is already included in the price. Sometimes the product is cheap because it was manufactured at enormous scale. Sometimes the route is cheap because millions of similar packages are moving through the same corridor. A $9 package does not cross the world because the world is small. It crosses the world because the path has been industrialized. But this system has limits. Fuel prices can rise. Labor costs can rise. Customs rules can change. Governments can demand more data, more duties, and more inspections. Customers can demand faster delivery. Platforms can push sellers toward overseas warehouses. And once goods are stored closer to customers, the business model changes. Instead of shipping one tiny order across the world after the buyer clicks, sellers may ship thousands of items in bulk to overseas warehouses before anyone buys them. That makes delivery faster, but it also creates new risks. The seller has to predict demand. The platform has to manage inventory. Warehouses have to store the products. Unsold goods become a cost. Cheap shipping does not disappear. It moves to a different part of the chain. Instead of paying to move one package across the world, the system pays to move thousands of products in advance and waits for customers to buy them. So the next time you see a $9 item with free shipping, remember what is hiding behind that button. A factory made it in bulk. A seller listed it online. A platform calculated the route. A warehouse printed the label. A courier collected it. A sorting center grouped it. An export hub prepared the documents. A plane or ship carried it across the world. Customs processed it. A domestic network took over. And a final driver brought it to the door. The package did not travel for free. It traveled because millions of other packages were traveling with it. It traveled because global logistics learned how to turn distance into a shared expense. It traveled because online shopping became so large that the world built a machine around it. And when it finally arrives, all the customer sees is a small envelope at the door. Not the trucks, not the warehouses, not the custom systems, Not the cargo routes, not the rule changes, not the millions of other parcels that made the journey possible. Just one cheap item, sitting quietly on the doorstep. And suddenly, that $9 package does not look so simple anymore. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe for more stories behind the systems we use every day, but rarely stop to understand. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.